So I've been a wedding photographer for 7 years. Only it's 2020 and there are no weddings this year. At least I don't have any until potentially the winter now. Um, so to try and keep my creative ideas going when I've got nothing to shoot, I've been trying to learn some new things. So I've used some of the downtime that the coronavirus crisis has given us to kind of expand my knowledge in a few areas and to add a few new skills to my tool set. So I've bought a drone, a Mavic Air 2. I'm going to cover that in a separate video. And I originally bought that to add some stills into my packages, take some nice aerial photos of my wedding couples or engagement shoots, and add a bit more dimension to my images in that respect. But as soon as I got it, I started playing with the video on it, and really quite enjoyed it. And my first videos, which I'm linked to here, didn't come out too badly at all. So I thought, well, maybe I should start doing some more video with my cameras. I mean, I've got to shoot with Sony A7 IIIs. They're pretty good as far as film camera goes as well. So I thought I'd start playing with that. I mean, I know how exposure works. I know how my cameras work inside out. So it can't be much different, can it? Only it is. So with stills, if I'm exposing for a certain scene and I've chosen the aperture I want to get the composition that I'm going for, I can then choose an ISO and the shutter speed. As long as the shutter speed is high enough to freeze motion, then that's all I need from shooting stills at a wedding, for example. However, that's not the same with video. I don't want to freeze the motion, because if you freeze the motion in every frame, it means your footage doesn't look real, because when people do move, we do see some motion blur. It's not, we don't see them perfectly still in every single part of their movement. So if I show you this clip of Jessica doing a star jump, which was recorded at 1/200th of a second, you can see it doesn't look that natural. Each frame, she's perfectly sharp. It looks a bit jerky, even though it's not. However, if I go to this footage, which is shot at 1/50th of a second, you can see there is some motion blur. There's it looks more natural because each frame isn't sharp, and that's how we see. But that makes exposing images harder, because we're removing one of the variables. So it means that no longer do I have shutter speed, aperture, and ISO to play with. I've only got ISO and aperture, but I've probably chosen the aperture for the composition that I want. So it really only leaves me ISO, or does it? So the only way, if it's too bright a scene, you're shooting at f2.8, and it's bright outside, you can't put your ISO any lower than the base ISO 100 or 125, depending which color profile you're using. So there has to be another solution. So the thing you need to start adding in neutral density filters. Now the drone came with some, and I got to grips with those pretty quickly on the drone. But it's a bit different with the camera, so I don't want to spend a huge amount of money while I'm just learning this. So what I've done is I've bought a variable neutral density filter, which I haven't spent a fortune on one, because I don't know how much I'm gonna keep going with it. So I've bought that, and I've bought some step-up rings. So I've bought one for my bigger lens, my 85 1.4, and I've bought step-up rings that will make that fit the other lenses, rather than have to buy multiple variable NDs. And what they do is they block light that comes into the camera. So rather than have to adjust any settings on the camera, I can dial in my ISO 125, my shutter speed of 1/50th of a second if I'm shooting in 25 frames per second, or 200th of a second if I'm shooting in 100 FPS. And then I can dial in the variable ND until the histogram shows me what I want, which is entirely different to how I'd be shooting using the camera and adjusting my shutter speed and aperture throughout the day. And capturing motion is more difficult to me than capturing stills. You know, I'm perfectly comfortable capturing moments throughout the day, throughout a wedding day, freezing that moment in time. But capturing a whole moment and moving with that moment is completely different. I mean, not the angles are the same, the composition might be the same, but the whole skill of steadily moving your camera, and it turns out suck at moving smoothly with my camera, so I'm going to be working on that. I may well look at getting a gimbal because I really like the smooth footage that those can give, and some of the different viewpoints that you can get with those. But again, I'm not going to spend a fortune on anything when I'm just learning it, but I am going to document the little bits and pieces I learn as I go along, pop them on this channel, and hopefully see my videos develop, because quite frankly at the moment they're not great. I'm quite happy with my drone videos. I've done some nice little family videos in the couple of weeks I've had the drone, and I'm going to document my progress through my PFCO and start sharing some more aerial videos as well. And if you wonder why I'm sitting in a kitchen, it's because it's 7 o'clock in the morning, the rest of the family are asleep, and this is the lightest room in the house anyway. So I'm probably going to be using this as my base when I'm recording these videos. Hopefully you'll find some bits that I come up with interesting.